Well, hello and welcome to the Leaders Debate. It's now the Leaders Debate.
It is the Leaders apostrophe.
On Sky. On Sky. And we do actually have a Sky feed. As you can see here, Sky News International. Thank God for that. I was looking a bit incompetent there, Ben. That wouldn't do, would
we
it?
can't have that, can we?
No, definitely not. Defo
So
Notto.
this is Rishi Sunak and Kier Starmer, 20 minutes grilling from Beth Rigby, followed by 20 minutes questions curated by Beth Rigby from the audience in Grimsby. Have you ever been to Grimsby?
No.
I saw a film about it from Sacha Baron Cohen once.
The Brothers Grimsby.
Yeah, the Brothers Grimsby. Great fun. Well, sort of.
I mean, this is going to sound really bad, but I don't like Grimsby.
I've not been there, but
No, I've not been there, but I don't like it.
I believe the actor Thomas Turgoose, who was in This Is England, is from Grimsby, so it's got some...
It voted for Brexit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the wrong end of the M62.
Bit fishy as well, isn't it? I bet it stinks.
It is a bit fishy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on here. We're getting some music of Louisiana, USA. Maps can be used to estimate the contribution of human... Oh, God. I don't know. I don't like the way my arm's getting cut off here, Ben. We have to move up a bit. There you go. Got to cuddle up. Anyway, how's everyone in the chat? Oh, I realised this is the old chat that we've got up here from the other stream. So we need to go... What's happening? My God, what is going on? Yes, here we go. Part 2. Sorry, everyone. Grimsby is grim, says Captain. Yes, I agree, Captain. And I'm just going to get rid of this chat. Sorry, the chat on the screen is the old chat from the last show. Need to update that, don't we?
This is Grimsby. This is the town hall in Grimsby where they're having the debate.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Have you been there?
I've not been to Grimsby.
You hang out there.
I've never been to Grimsby. I won't be going there.
You will be. Hi from the ancient past, says Shin Z. Okay, right. I'm going to turn up
for the keys
Beth
to Downing Street.
Rishi
Sunak.
Go on, Rigby.
You
rip him and
We're also joined by a live audience, many of them from here in Grimsby. Sky News has been reporting from the town throughout this election year,
the audience are made up of
out what matters most to people.
Entirely grim people.
Entirely grim people.
Just grim reapers.
This evening
Everyone in there is a grim reaper.
to win. So, here's how it's going to work. Over the next 90 minutes, the Conservative and Labour leaders will each be put through their paces by our political editor, Beth Rigby, before facing the questions you want answered.
Very nice.
Come on, Rigby. Do him.
Schools, housing, the list is endless.
Childcare, education, NHS.
We want some change from what is there today.
More provisions for the children with special educational needs.
Pay attention to the voice of the people.
They just need to get their stuff together a little bit.
We just can't support all this immigration.
We can't support all this immigration.
They said they were going to stop the boat.
Can't support all the immigration, Ben.
I feel so much for the young. What are they going to do?
We can't afford to live, we can't afford to eat, and we can't afford to go into higher education.
More job opportunities in the local
Sorry,
area.
People just need a bit more listening to.
Get your act together.
South of
and
Hull.
sort
Yeah,
the
you've got to
country
go
out.
over the Humber Bridge.
We've drawn lots to decide who should go first this evening, and it is the Labour leader, Kier Starmer. This is the battle for number 10.
That's why you call it your Humber
No,
Bridge.
it's got to be further north than Hull.
No,
It's further north than Hull.
it's not.
of course it
Grimsby's
is.
Lincolnshire.
Is it really? Okay.
Brexit Central, that's what it is. South of Hull,
Kier
isn't it?
Starmer, thank you so much for coming to Grimsby
Thank you for
tonight and being...
Well, I told you it was going to be a
the
one-on-one.
Well, let's kick off.
It is with the audience.
You told the
Ben, you haven't
country
ever listened.
Jeremy Corbyn would make a great Prime Minister. You then expelled him from Labour. You campaigned for a second EU referendum. Now you don't
just
talk
say that
about
we
the
got the
EU.
emergency Corbyn
And you
in
dumped
there,
all the
actually,
left-wing
didn't you?
policies pretty much
Emergency
you once
Corbyn.
loved.
Yeah,
Your
is there
short
an
political
emergency Dan
career
Abbott? Because she's
is a
bound to mention
catalogue,
her as
actually,
well.
of broken promises and changed positions. So how can the people in this room trust anything you say?
When we lost the 2019 election, we lost very badly as a political party, including here in Grimsby, where people felt that they couldn't vote for the Labour Party. And I concluded that I should listen to the electorate, and when you lose that badly, you don't look to the voters and say, what on earth do you think you were doing? You look at your party and say, we have to change.
Do you get the trust issue?
The change that I wanted to bring about, and I have brought about, is to change the Labour Party, to put it back in the service of working people. And what has guided me through that at all times is that the country must come first and the party second.
You get
and so I've had to take difficult decisions to change our party. But that has guided me through.
But, Sir Keir, you get there's a trust issue here with voters. You accept that?
No, because what I would say is this. I decided it must be country first. So every decision after that, I judged previous decisions, previous positions, and I said, is this truly country first, party second? If the answer to that was no, then I changed the position and dragged my party back to the service of working people, because I want this time round to put a Labour Party in front of people here in Grimsby and across the country that they know is a credible party that is putting the country first and has a clear plan for the future. And that's been the hard work I've done over the last 4.5 years.
Let's just go through that, because in the last 2 general elections, you asked people to elect Jeremy Corbyn as their Prime Minister. You said, I do think Jeremy Corbyn would make a great Prime Minister. Jeremy Corbyn, did you mean that?
Into Diana
I was certain that we would lose the 2019 election.
That wasn't
we were not
my
ready.
question.
I was certain that we would. I was certain that we would lose it. I did campaign for Labour, of course I did. I will openly say I campaigned for Labour. I wanted good colleagues to be returned into the Labour Party.
When you said it.
And I wanted a party that was capable of being changed so we could face the future again.
Did you not mean it when you said it?
I was certain that we would lose, and I think many other people were certain that we would lose.
So you didn't mean it?
I was certain that we would lose.
So you said it because you didn't think he would be Prime Minister anyway?
Of course I campaigned for the Labour Party at the last election and the election before that, and the one before that. I've always campaigned for the Labour Party, and I'm glad I did, because I wanted good colleagues to be returned to have their seats so that we could fight for the future of the Labour Party.
I will move
so
on
I make no apology for that. I fought for the Labour Party at the last election.
I'm just trying to make the point to everyone in here.
About Jeremy Corbyn.
That you said that he would make a great Prime Minister.
In a moment.
Now will you actually say, yes, I thought that, or I didn't think that at the time? Just be honest.
I honestly didn't think that we had a chance of winning that election.
So you said it anyway.
I wanted to campaign for our colleagues, and I then, once we got the result that we did, which were the results that I expected that we might get, as I say, I decided to step up to lead the party, not something I had planned to do when I came into Parliament, and to change it and to put it back in the service of working people.
The reason and we will move on, it's a trust issue, right? Because
Well, look, let me deal with this issue. I went to Northern Ireland and worked with the police service over there. I said I would work with the team to change it, and we did. I then ran the Crown Prosecution Service. I was the Chief Prosecutor for 5 years. I said we would change the Crown Prosecution Service, make it better, particularly on violence against women and girls. I changed it, we did it. I said I would change the Labour Party 4.5 years ago. Most people said to me, you can't do it. I did. So I stand on my record.
OK, so, OK, let's just go to your record, because I'm going to run you through your record, because people have to judge whether to vote for you. Your past political record, when you stood for election as leader, you did so on the basis of 10 pledges. They were very left-wing. A couple abolished tuition fees, common ownership of energy, water. Did you write these pledges, Sir Keir?
Yes, and I put them before the membership of our party.
COVID.
Most of them are still in place. I said that they were bound up with
I think you've dropped 6 or 7 of them,
economic
actually.
justice. No, that's not entirely true. But look, I'm not going to shy away. Have I changed my position on those pledges? Yes, I have, because I've asked myself, honestly, are these country first, party second? And if the answer to that question is no, then I've changed them, because I think this party should always put the country first. But the other thing I'd say, Beth, because I do think this is important...
But do you think they're wrong in principle?
Well, let's take energy nationalisation, which a lot of people think we should nationalise our energy companies. They're making a huge amount of money. Lots of people are paying a fortune on their bills. 2 years ago, at the height of the crisis, when people were facing very high bills, I said to my team, well, mock up for me, tell me how much it will cost to nationalise the energy companies. That ran into tens of billions of pounds, and I had to take a decision, which is, do we use tens of billions of pounds to pay off shareholders to nationalise the company, but not have any money to reduce your bill? I thought that would have been the wrong decision. I think most people watching this here or on the television would say, for heaven's sake, Kier, if it's a choice between keeping my bills low or paying off shareholders tens of billions of pounds, there's only one choice you can make. And that's what I mean by country first, party second. I changed my mind. It was too expensive. I wanted to get the bills down.
We need to get to the audience questions, so let me rattle through this bit, if you don't mind. One of the pledges you can definitely afford to do, in fact, you might want to do, given the state of public services, is to raise tax on the top 5% of earners. That's anyone earning over £80,000 a year. Why did you ditch that? You can do that. That money would be useful. It could make £2 to £3 billion a year for the public purse.
Let me be really clear about tax, because this has been a big issue in the last 3 weeks.
Let me be really clear.
So let me be absolutely clear. All of our plans are fully costed, fully funded. We will not raise tax on working people. That means no tax rises for income tax, for national insurance, for VAT. Our manifesto comes out tomorrow. It's a very forward-looking manifesto, but there's nothing in our manifesto that requires us to raise tax.
You've swerved the top 5% of earners
No, nothing requires us to raise tax. And I tell you, I do want to... You're challenging me and I want to deal with this. I want to do things differently. I want to grow our economy. I accept that previous Labour leaders have sort of pulled the tax lever every single time and driven up spending. I want to grow our economy. The manifesto tomorrow will be a manifesto, a plan for wealth creation. Now, you may not hear a Labour leader say that very often, but for me, that is the most important thing. And therefore, I'm not going to do what other Labour leaders have done and be tempted to simply say every time we're going to pull the tax lever. We're not going to do that.
Let's have some tax honesty, because you often say the country's public services are broken. Many people, I think, in this room will agree with that. That's why many people also suspect when you're in power, you will raise more tax. And I want you to be honest here, please. You've said you'll raise specific taxes on profits on oil and gas companies, closing loopholes on tax avoidance, tax reform on private equity, VAT on private schools. But the Tories say you will go further. They're right, aren't they? You will.
Well, the first thing I'd say is the Tories are in no position to lecture anyone about tax rises. We've got the highest tax burden. For 70 years. And I think that working people shouldn't pay more tax and we will not raise their tax. What we need to do is get the economy going. There's a reason that taxes have gone up so much in recent years, and that's because the economy is flatlining. We have to address that problem. And tomorrow our manifesto is a plan for growth, a detailed plan of the first steps we will do in government to get our economy working so that living standards go up and we have the money we need for our public services.
So no tax rises of any kind in the next Parliament under Labour?
No tax rises for working people, and nothing in our manifesto requires tax rises over and above those that we have specifically set out.
No tax rises in the next Parliament?
No tax rises needed in the plans in our manifesto.
In the plans?
No tax rises for working people. That's income tax, national insurance,
so you're
and VAT.
not ruling out. I just decode that for you guys, because when a politician says no plans, it does mean I might.
Well, Beth,
I've done this a bit. It does.
To be fair,
I'm not going to sit here tonight and write the next 5 years' worth of budgets.
And also, she's right on that
if I did. What I will say is that we will not raise tax.
We ruled out NI.
Yes,
because you are ruling out some tax rises, but not all.
Because I think working people are paying too much tax, and I think paying far too much tax in recent years. And I think that has made the cost of living crisis 10 times worse than it would otherwise be.
What I'm hearing is that you are not ruling out some tax rises, and you've talked about working people.
But I have said that none of our... We're going to unveil our manifesto tomorrow. No tax surprises.
I got it.
There's going to be no need to raise tax from the plans we're setting out.
But the point is there are other taxes that affect working people, aren't there? What about council tax? I'm sure many people are worried about that, yeah? The Labour Party in Wales launched a review of council tax banding. Are you going to rule out a review in England too?
Well, council tax is too high for many people. It's been going up. It went up again this year, but that's because the government lost control of the economy.
You're not going to do a review of the council tax bans?
I'm really
You know they were last revalued when I was a teenager, and I'm really old now.
Yeah. Beth, you're pushing me over and over again on tax. I'm not wanting to raise tax. I think people are taxed too much already. What I want to do, my central mission, is to grow the economy. I'm not going to apologise for that, because I genuinely think that if you don't grow the economy, then you're taxing an ever-diminishing return.
I mean, people here will be worried about fuel duty, right?
Yeah.
The
I'll show you my religious helmet,
since 2011. If you unfroze it, you could get £5 to £6 billion. That's a tax on working people.
Yes, and that's why you
are going to freeze it?
Every single budget, we have supported the freeze on fuel duty.
And you will continue to do that as Prime Minister if you would win?
We have to concentrate on growing the economy. On fuel duty, that has to be decided budget by budget. But my track record is we support.
He's going to do it or not? I don't know.
We've supported the cap on fuel duty every single time it's come up.
OK.
But I want to do things differently. If we just do things in the same way as we've done for the last 14 years, we'll end up in the same mess. I'm not prepared to do that. This election is an election about change, about doing things differently, about growing the economy and making sure we create the wealth so this country can run our public service. And I ran a public service. No. I do want to finish this. I ran a public service for 5 years. I ran a public service in the austerity years. I know what it means to be a public servant. I absolutely care about our public services. My wife works in the NHS. My mum worked in the NHS. And I know what it means to the NHS. But I absolutely want our public services to function. I believe in them. I worked in them for 5 years.
I've heard the specifics on certain taxes, but to be clear,
Mum was a care worker.
Council tax revaluation, which could put up council tax bills.
I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and...
What is going on here?
£14 billion a year. That must be attractive to you if you want to repair public services.
That is not in our manifesto. That is not a choice that we are making. It will not be unveiled tomorrow. There's no surprises in our manifesto, because our manifesto is a manifesto for growth. It's about how we tackle our planning laws, how we get the skills for our young people, how we set up Great British Energy. This is going to be a publicly owned energy company, so that taxpayers' money that goes into investing in energy comes back to the taxpayer. These are the ideas that we have that I want to put on the table to grow our economy for the future.
The reason I'm asking you this is, I don't know if you remember that interview we did in September 2021 when I asked you about wealth taxes. You said people who earn their money from properties, dividends, stock shares, they should be looked at. We need to look at a range of options, and that includes the way people earn their money. So you were looking at wealth taxes. You are looking at wealth taxes. It's OK to say it.
We're not looking at wealth taxes. Nothing in our manifesto will require tax frozen. You'll see it for yourself.
You won't rule it out.
Let's test this tomorrow.
The video's frozen. What is going on? I'm very sorry about this.
The Silver Fox has frozen.
He's frozen.
Thaw him out immediately.
Frozen. Someone thaw him out. Someone thaw him out, please. I don't know what is going on here.
Well, he's about to get a grilling from all the Tory plants in the audience.
I don't know what's happened.
I bet Laura Koonsberg's there.
It's just kind of collapsed. Guys, you are lost in the mix. Sorry, we're getting lost in the mix here. I hate it when that happens. Very sorry. Sorry, Captain Bart Roberts. Well, thank you for the super chat. We'll be coming back to this momentarily when it starts working again. Ben can join in my trauma.
I'm just enjoying
things just stopping working for no reason.
Kier's chiseled jaw there.
There you go.
I invite all of you, please, if you get the chance tomorrow afternoon, have a look at the manifesto. We're launching it tomorrow morning, and you will see for yourselves that every single thing is fully costed, fully funded, and they do not involve tax. So we're going round and round in circles.
Well, no, you all know too that if it's not ruled out in the manifesto, it's on the table. So let's just carry on. What about you? Personally, you earned £128,000 in tax last year. You paid £44,000 in income tax. That puts you in the top 2 to 3% of earners. Would you personally be happy to pay more tax?
Yes, of course.
OK.
I've always paid my tax in full. But, you know, and I accept I earn a lot was in the job I am now in. But when I grew up, my dad was a tool maker. He worked in a factory. My mum was a nurse, and actually we couldn't make ends meet, which actually isn't a laughing matter. We couldn't make ends meet. We couldn't pay our bills. I know what it feels like to feel anxious about the next bill which you can't pay. And a lot of what I recognise is a lot of people today are in precisely the same position as I was in. Politics is about your policies, of course it is, but it's also about who do you have in your mind's eye when you make your decisions? Who are you thinking about when you make your decisions? I'm thinking about the people who are struggling with their bills. I'm thinking about working people who deserve a better Britain. I'm thinking about working people who want their living standards to go up. And our plan for the country, which we will set out tomorrow, is a confident, hopeful manifesto for change.
But I'm nearly finished. Because I want to come on to something that matters to working people, and that's child benefits. At the moment, just to remind you all, you probably know, there's a two-child benefit cap for families, some of whom have more children than that. This is hitting some of the poorest and most vulnerable in Britain. The Resolution Foundation think tank says families cannot claim about £3,200 per extra child a year. Dozens of organisations, from the Trade Union Congress to the Church of England to the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, have called for it to go. Will you scrap it? Is that in your manifesto tomorrow?
No, it isn't. And it's been a really difficult decision for all the reasons you outlined, because the last Labour government had a laser focus on dealing with child poverty and did a huge amount of good work, including Sure Start and the programmes that were set up.
It cost £1.3 billion. All of those wealth taxes I was talking about, or the 5% on top earners, you could do that, and you could do that policy £1.3 billion a year.
Huge damage has been done to our economy under this government. Huge damage. And if we are able to come into government and form a government, we're probably going to inherit a broken economy, a broken NHS, broken public services, in fact, broken everything. And I'm not going to make promises that I can't keep. So I'm doing actually a difficult thing, which is saying to the electorate, saying to you now, I can't do something which I know the benefits of it. We need to deal with child poverty, and we will have a strategy for child poverty. But I think people are fed up with politicians who, before the election, say we'll do everything, and then after the election they don't deliver. So I've taken a decision, which is before the election I'm going to tell you what we can't do, even though some of these things are good things to do.
So, Kier, I'm going to interrupt now because I'm nearly out of time. It would lift 1 million kids out of poverty, and just to be clear, you're choosing not to do it.
It's a difficult choice. We will have an anti-child poverty strategy, of course we will. The last Labour government did. We will have one. But the easiest thing in the world, it's what Rishi Sunak is doing, is to simply say you can have everything. Unfunded commitments, unfunded promises. That's what got us into this problem in the first place. And working people are paying the price with higher bills, their mortgages. I'm not prepared to have a Labour government ever make that mistake again.
I think that's the first round of applause has actually
Some people feel that they don't really know you. Some people say you change your mind all the time, and I hinted at some of that. Some people say you're boring and stiff. Tell me something. Tell me something, a morsel about yourself that will change people's minds.
Does he make...
Look, all my life I've believed in service. That is why I worked in Northern Ireland with the police service of Northern Ireland to ensure it had the confidence of both communities. I thought that was a really important thing. That's why I worked and headed up the Crown Prosecution Service, public service. That's why I came into politics when I finished as Director of Public Prosecutions and wondered what to do next. My wife was ringing adverts in the papers about, well-paid lawyers' jobs, and I said, no, I want to serve my country, which is why at a late stage, actually, I came into politics to serve my country.
Was Vic, your wife, not keen for you to do this?
No, she wasn't at all. She
what
thought
does she think
it'd be
about
far better to continue being a lawyer on a reasonable salary and not have all of the challenges that you get as a politician. But I was clear in my mind. I wanted to come into politics because I wanted to serve my country. And I've waited 9 years now in opposition. I've worked 4.5 years to put my party back in a position where I can put it before you and others, the voters, as the only party that's got a plan for the future.
If you become Prime Minister in 3 weeks' time, what do you fear the most?
Oh, the only real fear, I suppose, I have is for my family. I've got a boy who is just turning 16. He's 15 3/4. I've got a girl who's 13. These are really difficult ages for children. If they're under 5, it would probably be easier. If they were 20 or over, it'd be easier. And my only fear, really, is the impact it's going to have on them. That's why we never name them in public, never have a photo shoot with them. I want them to be able to walk to school and have their own lives unaffected as much as I can by what I'm doing. And that I don't fear the big decisions. In fact, I relish the chance to change our country. And on the first day, I want to start on our first steps. I want you to see the change that we can bring about. But my only fear is actually, and the only thing that sort of keeps me up at night is worrying about my children.
Any doubt that you're up to the job?
No, not at all. I've led different organisations, I've changed them, and I want the opportunity to change the country.
And the present is still not...
They're drunk in the audience.
Got on to the future and this growth process that you're going to go through.
Well, thank you for raising that, because we've got... What we've done is we've set out the big change that we want to make, but also what the first steps will be that we can do on day one. So the day after the election, I want to start on our first step, stabilising the economy to make sure we never go through a cost of living crisis like this before, set up Great British Energy so we can keep your bills down. I want to start on the 40,000 appointments each and every week that we need to get the waiting list down in our NHS. We will be doing that the morning after the election, and that is what I look forward to most.
Well, I do mean to interrupt. We've got to get to the audience questions. Thank you, sir.
You've been doing it all night.
Thank you so much for coming and doing that with us. And now you've got some harder questions from this lot.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Someone just shouting out a question.
Yeah, I know. Well, you have to respond to it. What was he supposed to do? Of course he was going to respond to it.
Well, there you are, the audience questions getting underway a little bit early. You heard what Kier Starmer had to say to Beth Rigby there. He said he was certain that Labour would lose that 2019 election, but he has put the party back in the service of working people, putting the country first, he said. He also insisted there's nothing in the party's manifesto, launched tomorrow morning, that would require them to raise taxes for working people. He said the party isn't considering wealth taxes, with all of their commitments fully costed. And he also said that he would personally be happy to pay more tax. Well, now it is your turn to put your questions to the Labour
Tory
leader.
plants are go.
I'd be happy to pay more tax if I had more money.
Right. Now, our first question comes from Sharon, who is from Grimsby. Sharon, where are you? There she is. Take it away, Sharon.
So, as someone born and bred in Grimsby, I'm proud of our town, but it has some of the most disadvantaged areas in the country, with high levels of child poverty, inadequate social housing and increasing numbers having to use food banks. How will Labour address these inequalities and improve outcomes for the most disadvantaged residents, both here and across the UK?
Well, thank you for that.
And thank you, Joshua Hartley, for the super chat. Starmer is actually
I've been to Grimsby a number of times now, and my strong impression is that you're absolutely right about the challenges that people are facing, and we've had discussions about that even this morning with various groups around Grimsby. The very real challenges, the cost of living crisis, the challenge that people have with schooling and with health. But what I've also been struck by is the pride and ambition that people have in their place and in Grimsby, and the sense that they want a government that matches their own ambition. I think the way to do that is to ensure that the government works with local communities, local businesses. We need a growth plan for Grimsby, which your fingerprints are on. I don't want someone standing in Whitehall and Westminster looking at a map and deciding what they think is best for Grimsby, because I think with people with skin in the game are the people who make the best decisions. So I want a government that partners with you, drives through the change, creates the conditions for businesses to thrive. If that means changing the planning rules so we get our roads sorted out, the congestions and the potholes are an absolute nightmare. Create the conditions for businesses to thrive. I was really struck, the time before last I was up here, I was looking at some of the offshore wind turbines and talking to apprentices here in Grimsby. Brilliant young people, by the way, who all lived within about 20 or 30 minutes, of where they're working. And they were very skilled going out to maintain those wind turbines. We need more of that. The supply chains for that should be in and around here, so they're not other parts of the country or abroad. That's the sort of challenge that I relish. It's what I want to do on day one, which is to get to this place where I can roll up my sleeves, work with you, have the respect to listen to what you're saying here, not sit a long, long way away and make decisions about what should happen in Grimsby. And I'm convinced that if there's a government that has ambition that matches the people of Grimsby, we can move this forward very, very quickly.
He's
and I can see
hinting
some
at
of the green shoots there already, because some of the work that's going on, we had a roundtable this morning with some of the businesses, the community groups here in Grimsby that were telling me not just the struggles and the challenges, but what they were doing about it. I want to roll up my sleeves and work with them and to say the government is on your side. That would be a massive difference to the last 14 years.
Yeah, very good answer.
Good answer.
Can't fault that.
Give him that.
And Beth allowed him to speak.
How it's all going to be funded? If taxes are not going up, how are you going to fund it?
Close loopholes. Close the loopholes. Explain how Rishi's wife got away with paying no tax.
We need to put money and resource into Grimsby. We need resource decision-making to come. So we have to be bold enough in government to release that so that there's more power here in Grimsby. They're difficult things to do. Governments haven't done that in the past, but we have to do that. Some of it we can do straight away. The potholes that are driving around mad because their cars get damaged, it costs them hundreds of pounds, and if you need your car or your van for work, it's a complete nightmare because you can't actually use it. That can be done straight away. We've been setting out our plans on that. Childcare came up this morning in a discussion I was having.
This isn't the question.
We want to create 100,000 new places for childcare. This is 3,000 nurseries around schools, because I think primary schools are the best place for nurseries, so that means children get the opportunity to develop the skills that they need before reception year, which isn't happening in the way it should at the moment, in my view. But also, parents and carers can go back into work, which many of them want to do, and that then helps the local economy. There are things that we can do. Goes back to my point. We've got first steps, the things we want to do the day we get into government. If we're elected in, that I want to start, and I've said to my shadow cabinet, I want you to prepare
she does look like a bit of a sourpuss
for the first day in government. I don't want you picking up the phone on day
no, it's not as mean as that.
I want to know you're ready. And that's why I'm so confident that we can do this as soon as we get the chance, if we do get a chance, to bring about the change this country so desperately needs.
OK, thank you. I've got so many questions.
That's all right.
Look at them all.
Beth didn't notice that.
And the next one comes from Jonathan. He's a junior doctor from Leeds. Jonathan, there he is. Thank you.
So I've been on strike because I earn more money per hour working part-time as a university student than I do as a newly qualified doctor. Abysmal pay, conditions and morale mean that more of my colleagues than ever are planning their exit, and I worry about what this means for my loved ones and the wider general public. Scotland and Wales have decided that they can pay NHS doctors fairly. How and when will you commit to doing the same in England?
Well, we won't be able to do anything unless we win the election. We've obviously only been in opposition so far. I have been frustrated, if I'm honest, that these strikes have gone on as long as they have gone on. The strikes are very bad for patients. People are very anxious about the strikes. I don't think doctors want to be on strike. As I said earlier, my wife works in one of the big London hospitals, so I know firsthand and relayed every night the pressure that NHS staff are under. It's been unrelenting during COVID, unrelenting now because of waiting lists. So what we would do is, instead of arguing about who gets in the room first to negotiate with the doctors, we would roll up our sleeves in a grown-up way,
I thought it was a leaders'
debate, and settle this dispute so that patients can get the care they need, doctors
I
can
said
get
it's a
back
leaders'
to work,
event.
and the country can move forward. Because
I
we
did think they were
can't
going to
go
be on
like
stage
this
together
anymore. And the sooner we have a bit of grown-up politics in this, the better, I think, because we absolutely
it's
need
less
to move forward as a
adversarial. We're
country.
getting answers.
Are you going to pay them more? Are you going to pay them more? Because you've said that you won't meet their pay claims.
Well, the doctors say they want 35%, and I've had to say...
we don't. We want a path to pay restoration.
No, I get that, but again...
Our pay has been cut in real terms, and we're looking to make that... The 35% thing is not...
Pay, progression, conditions, and all of that can be negotiated. On the 35%, I don't think we can afford that as a country because of the damage that's been done to the economy. I don't want to pretend to you that we can. I'll sit down in a room and negotiate and find a way through this, just as has happened in other countries, because it's intolerable that we go on. But I'm not going to start with the proposition that we simply accept whatever the other side is asking for. That's not how negotiations go. And you wouldn't respect a government if it operated in that way. And other people in other walks of life have got constraints and pressures on their lives that have to be balanced. But will we be grown? All that's happened this year, and it's so frustrating, is the government say we want a deal, but we won't go into the room first. It's for the doctors
never wanted a deal.
Well, I think you may be right. And the fact they've left this to the election without fixing it and just booted it the other side of the election, I think is disgraceful. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do patients any good, and it doesn't do the country any good. But we've had a government that's chaotic, that's divided, has broken just about everything they've touched. I don't know a period in history, and you will all think about this, where almost everything is now in a worse state than when they started in government. And this is not about Labour or Tory.
In particular.
If you leave your country in a worse state than when you came into government, you should be booted out.
OK.
Yeah, agreed. And he won that guy back over. I was worried he was going to lose him there by taking over him.
I've got so many questions. The next one comes from Hussein from London. Where is he? There you go, please.
Yeah. Hi. So I'm an average working parent from London, and I send my daughter to a private school, which in turn saves the government about £7,500.
No, it doesn't. It costs the government £15,000.
But by now having to pay 20% VAT, we would be priced out, and we would have to send our children to state school.
You know that private school fees have increased 500% in the last 25
Rather, it increases the influx in public schools. So private schools is not only for the rich. I mean, the rich would continue sending their children. It's us who would have to make the change.
Rich.
And the ultimate losers in all of this are the children, who are meant to be our future.
No.
So
the actual losers...
taxing private education?
They're the losers. They're just winners.
Let me be really clear about what we're doing here. I have nothing against private schools. I absolutely recognise that many parents work hard and save hard to send their children to private schools because they have aspiration for their children. I equally accept that every parent has aspiration for their children, whether they go to private school or not. But I absolutely respectfully want to make your point, because it is a concern. It's a concern to you and to other people. In our state secondary schools, we've got thousands of teachers missing in the subjects that we need. So in a state secondary school, let's take maths. Too many
Let's look after the 93% rather than the 7%.
Children are being taught by maths, by sports teachers, by supply teachers, and that's not acceptable. And for those children in a state secondary school who don't have the teachers they need, that's not a one-year problem or a two-year budgeting problem. It's a lifelong problem, because if they don't get the qualifications they need at 15 and 16, they can't go and do what they want.
How can he win him over?
So we need to recruit 6,500 teachers for our state secondary schools to make sure every child, wherever they come from, whatever their background, whichever school they go to, has the same opportunity. And I'll be pressed when I say going to recruit 6,500 teachers. Beth and others will say to me, where's the money for that? And I say we will get rid of the tax break for private schools and use that money directly to fund those teachers in our state secondary schools. That's a political choice. It's actually a tough choice. I do understand what you're saying. I don't think it will lead to lots of people going to state education. We have done some analysis on this, but it's a choice. I think every single child, whatever their background, wherever they're from, should have the chance and to genuinely believe that success belongs to them. Yeah, of course.
But this would mean that you would tax the working parents who send their children to private school.
No, the rich parents.
The rich will continue doing that.
All parents are working.
The working parents who will have to
parents out there who aren't working.
Pay the taxes.
The position at the moment is there's a tax break. So you pay VAT on other services, but you don't pay it for private schools. Now, I understand why that's been in place, but it's a tax break that we are removing.
Jeff True saying, rich man asking about private schools in Grimsby.
We need to find the money to properly fund our state secondary schools.
Who paid to fly him
so that in maths, to take an example, it's not the only example, I want every child to have a maths teacher teaching them maths, because it's the Prime Minister says he wants maths to the age of 18. Let's first get the right teachers for every single child up to 16, because at the moment they don't have it. And I genuinely worry, if you don't get maths at the right level in your GCSEs, it's really difficult to go on to A-levels. It's really difficult to go on to apprentices, and that child will be held back. Now, this is difficult stuff, but I'm not going to tolerate the fact that we haven't got the right teachers in our state secondary schools. That's the position we're in now. It's a disgrace in that position.
I'm going to interrupt you because I've got so many audience questions, and I'm going to be in trouble with them if I don't get through them, and you'll be gone, and I'm the one in trouble. So I've got Kerry from Grimsby. Kerry?
Yes, hi. Kerry. Hi. Good evening, Sir Kier. My NHS dentist practice went private and gave us a choice of either staying and paying private or finding a new practice. I've currently been on that waiting list for over a year with no idea of how long that waiting list is with my family. How would you fix this crisis and stop dentists from going to the greed of private?
We need to make sure that... this is a huge problem because we don't have enough NHS dentists for adults or for children, and some areas are deserts now where you simply can't get an NHS dentist. So we've got to fix this. The two things that we would do, three things, but the first is to make the money available for 700,000 urgent appointments in NHS dentistry, including 100,000 for children, which is desperately needed. The second is to incentivise newly qualified dentists to set up as NHS dentists by paying them money to put down their roots in the areas where they're most needed, so we can recreate those NHS dentist practice. We have to do this. In addition to the people who are frustrated in the way that you rightly are, I was genuinely shocked the other day. I went to Alderhay Children's Hospital. This is a brilliant hospital.
Liverpool.
Do you know what? For 6 to 10-year-olds, the most common cause of admission to hospital is rotting teeth, to have their teeth taken out because they haven't seen a dentist. It's a disgrace in 2024 England and Scotland and Wales.
Alderhay's my hospital.
That was quicker, at least.
That's where I grew up.
You were.
In the shadow of Alderhay.
Do you use a private dentist?
Well, we're at an NHS dentist practice, but I'm private because I'm an adult and therefore don't get it on the NHS, but our kids get NHS dentistry, and I believe in it.
OK.
The nearest one available is somewhere further than home.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You've got these vast areas where it's not just how much it is, it's also there just isn't a dentist there, which is why...
I've got a friend with cystic
how have we got to this state in 2024 where basic things like dentistry are a problem in our country? I mean, what on earth has happened to get us to this place? We've got to fix it. I look forward on the first day we get into government to starting on this job. I find all of that much more interesting than all the sort of talking about what you're going to do. I just want to get on with the job.
The first day we get into government, bold. OK, next question is from Cayman, who's from Yorkshire. Cayman, where are you?
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Hi. I admired how in touch you were with the public when you were obviously a solicitor and then you became Director of Public Prosecutions with CPS. But over the last year, I feel like you've formed into more of a politician than the person that I would have voted for to run the country. You seem more like a political robot. How are you going to convince others like me to vote for you?
Well,
give him a tickle.
Alton Towers, Thorpe Park.
Thorpe Park.
Yeah, Thorpe Park tomorrow, mate.
Look, all I can say,
I
went to run the Crown Prosecution Service. You referenced that. I was the Chief Prosecutor for 5 years, effectively bringing in every criminal prosecution in England and Wales, including here in Grimsby, in our courts to make sure that where people broke the law, they were prosecuted and you were kept safe as a result of that. Working, of course, with my
Not sure you really want to imply that.
I worked before that in Northern Ireland, so I've had this constant theme in my life of trying to serve the public. That's why I worked in Northern Ireland. That's why I worked in the Crown Prosecution Service.
I'm not going to apologise for being sensible. The one thing this country needs right now is someone who's sensible.
Quite late in life.
I'm going to make politics boring again. Vote for me.
But I took the decision that I couldn't take the issues, make the changes that I thought were necessary unless I went into politics. I was frustrated.
Do you think you've changed?
Well, I've been much clearer in my own mind that the country must come first and the party and party politics second. I'm really, I don't apologise for that. I think that's really important. I think it probably is a result of coming into politics late because I'm not tribally political. I actually do believe there are good people who vote, other than Labour, who want their family, their community and their country to go forward. And that's why I've said, if we are to come into power, I want a decade of national renewal. And I want everybody who wants the country to improve to feel that there's a place for them, whether or not they traditionally voted Labour. Because I actually genuinely think that the vast majority of people in this country are reasonable people, they're tolerant people who sort of live and let live, and if given the chance, would pull together to advance their community, to advance their family and to advance their country. And I don't think you need to be tribally Labour for that. I think you can actually pull the country together. And that would be a real moment for us.
I'm going to have to, because I'm...
Yeah, of course, that was a bit long. Apologies.
Cayman, did he convince you, yes or no?
I hope you don't answer the questions how you answer the questions, and I hope you never answered them the way that you did when you were a solicitor, because you don't seem to answer the question.
OK. I'm gonna...
I thought you did answer the question. It's a bit rambling.
OK. Well, I'm going to need a speedy answer because we're nearly out of time, but I have Kieran from Guildford. You've got under the line. Where are you? Please, go ahead.
Good evening.
Kieran, the van driver.
Young people in this country have grown up knowing nothing but conservative austerity and political chaos.
Yes.
We didn't have the chance to vote for Brexit in 2016 because we were too young, and now we're inheriting that economy. We're graduating from university, are less likely to own a home than our parents, all while paying a higher effective tax rate because of student loans that wasn't a thing generations ago. How can you convince us that you are truly going to be different and actually effective at making change, not just in terms of the economy, but also to improve our trust in political institutions?
Good question, but I'm not the Tories. Just say I am not the Tories.
First, by absolutely being clear that I understand the challenges that you are setting out. And that's because I do something which I think is underrated in politics and leadership, which is to listen, to use these, to listen to the challenges that people are talking to people. I go around the country the whole time. The most important thing I say to everybody I meet, please tell me the change you want if we're able to come into government, and I will mull that over in my mind on the train or in the car on the way back, because you have the right to put your fingerprints on what comes next. Just to address the specific things, we need good quality, high-skilled jobs for the future for our young people. That's why I was so impressed, and when I saw those apprentices here in Hull who had skilled jobs that they were proud of doing with a future to them. We need to make sure we're building enough houses so that young people can get on the housing ladder. At the moment, the idea that you have to be in your mid to late 30s before you get your own roof over your head is a sign of a broken system, because I know from growing up how important it is to have your own home as a base camp for your dreams, your aspirations, for the security of your family. So we will build those 1.5 million homes. That will only happen if we partner with business, if we get rid of some of the planning rules that are in the way, and if we have a set of arrangements with mayors and combined authorities to get that building done. Because otherwise, you simply will be in the same position.
I'm going to have to interrupt. Sakir, thank you so much for joining us in Grimsby tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right.
I think he did reasonably well. I do. I think he did better than he did do the other night on TV.
Don't mention the Brexit.
Kier Starmer. Next up is the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Don't go anywhere.
I'm going to go somewhere. Do you want to nip to the fridge and get another couple of beers?
Do you want me to get... I'm fine.
Well, you get me a 60-64, and if you want one of those alcohol-free ones, you can nab one of them. I'll keep everyone entertained. Oh, so... just going to turn this down, because you don't need to hear that. Not in my backyard, no. That was quite fun, wasn't it? So, yes. I can listen to Rat Boy and see you later. Brew time. He's done well. I thought he did all right. I thought he did. What do you think, Ben? Do you think he did all right? Ben? Well, just turn it off. It's finished. Just press the off button or something. Or knock it off the switch. Good. Okay.
Nice.
Don't let me forget it later.
It does smell nice.
It does smell nice. Right. Okay. We've got Saddleworth more, mate. Saddleworth. Oh! I said super chat, but no one gave a super chat. Sorry, that was a lie. That was a lie. What did you think?
I think he, for the most part of the first 20 minutes, he was assertive. He said what he wanted to say. He came across better, more prime ministerial, more prepared than he did on ITV. For the majority of the questions, I think he handled them pretty well, particularly, actually, ironically, the one about the private schools, because he sort of re-diverted his answer to address the 93% who are in state schools.
Yes.
But wasn't overly disrespectful.
It's going to be more than 93% in Grimsby as well,
Of course
isn't
it is. It's a difficult one. And
famous for his private schools.
It's difficult when you get a question like that, because obviously you don't want to come across as being antagonistic towards the questioner, and he wasn't. But he answered the question and got quite a few rounds of applause in that answer from the majority of the audience. So, no, I think, solid 7, maybe even an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Grimfang 999, overall solid, if a bit too rambling. The evasiveness over Corbyn was not a good look. I thought that he gave the only answer he could give in that situation, which is, I knew we were going to lose the election because everyone knew that. But I was campaigning for my colleagues
that I
for
supported,
MPs who I didn't want to lose I didn't want them to lose their jobs. I wanted to have good people to work with in the aftermath of what happened.
There's not much more he could have said, but I think he could have. I mean, she really laboured that. I'm surprised she didn't get onto Dan Abbott, which is a good thing, because it means that one has at least blown over.
Yeah,
and he's ridden out that storm, because that threatened to be another kind of Jeremy Corbyn saga. But it's been
go on about it and on about it forever.
I mean, I think when you look at the first 3.5 weeks of the campaign, he's had a pretty solid time, apart from that one blip, really.
Yeah.
And the £2,000 Tory lie about raising taxes has totally blown up in their faces, and they've handled that pretty well. And actually,
God, our volume was down at 15. That's why it was so quiet.
Okay, I said on my show last week.
We're too loud.
Okay, I said on my show last week that I think. Now I've forgotten what I was going to say, because you're babbling on about.
Oh,
the
sorry.
the
No,
volume.
it was just important that we sort the volume out.
I had an important point to make there as well.
I wondered why it was so quiet. There's a setting there on the screen. There's a setting on the back of the mic, and there's a setting on the OBS as well.
Yeah.
You'll have to be whacked up. Can you hear us all right now, everyone? Saying we were getting drowned out before. I'm sorry if we just blurted out to anyone's ear. You sorted out the sounds. Yes, Craven Beer we have. And we sorted out the beer as well.
I sorted out the beer. You bodged up the
Thanks,
sound.
Ben. You're not quite on the screen, look. Let's come closer to me.
Well, you have to move up then. That way. Hang on, we're back. We're live. We're live with Rishi Action. Where's my headpiece? My headphone thing.
Here. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Okay, let's go on to Titchy
Miss a word of this from the Prime Minister.
PM, polling day is 3 weeks tomorrow, but it's rough, isn't it? A poll out this week put the Conservatives on 18 points, just about neck with Nigel Farage's reform.
Nigel Farage.
Your polling is now worse than in the dying days of the Liz Truss government. What's going so wrong?
Well, I've got to say, Beth, it hasn't been an easy 18 months in general. So what I've done, though, is just keep going to try and do my best for people. And that's what I'm doing in this campaign. I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to everyone, not just tonight, but across the campaign, out and about in the country, about our plans for the future, because I know we've been through a tough time. Of course we have, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. It's been tough for
you haven't, though, have you?
Tonight,
do you reckon that's a we have a plan?
I do believe we've turned the corner, and we've got a clear plan for the future to make a difference to people.
We have a plan.
Cut their taxes, to bring down immigration, to protect pensions. Those are all things that I think
Putin's war of aggression in Ukraine.
People want, and so I'm going to keep fighting hard till the last day of this election.
PM, Liz Truss never recovered from that disastrous mini-budget. Do you worry that your fateful decision to skip part of those D-Day commemorations could prove as terminal for you?
Well, the last thing that I wanted to do was cause anyone, and particularly our veterans community, any hurt or upset. It was a mistake.
It should be fun, says Craven Beer.
I apologised unreservedly for that. And, I'm deeply sad to have caused people hurt and upset by that.
Find it in their hearts
I was
to forgive
privileged
you.
to participate in all the commemoration events that I did, to speak to many veterans, to thank them personally
Get on your knees. Get on your goddamn knees, lad.
Sure that
I want to see you
I can demonstrate to them how committed I am to making this the best country in the world to be a veteran, through all the things that we are doing in government.
And when you realised the mistake and you apologised, how were you feeling? Did you feel really awful? How was it for you?
Yeah, I was incredibly sad to have caused people hurt and upset. That was actually the last thing that I wanted to do. And as I said, I hope people can find it in their hearts to forgive me. When I realise I made a mistake, I apologise.
That should be on your bingo card.
I've asked for
People
forgiveness,
can find it in
and
their hearts to
also
forgive me.
I have been
It's a great
speaking to
line for an
veterans
election
about
campaign,
things
isn't
that we
it?
are
Please
doing
forgive me.
to make sure this
Please
is
forgive
a good
me.
country for them after
Let
they've
me
served,
win.
because we owe them an enormous debt
He
of
doesn't want to
gratitude.
win.
And that's why I've made sure it's a priority to have a minister around the cabinet table to support them and focus on the things that matter to them.
Lies!
Prime Minister, let's go on to the Tory record. You say that you're the one who can deliver stability after all the turmoil, but for many voters, the Conservatives are the turmoil.
Yes.
In this Parliament, we've had 3 Prime Ministers, 5 Chancellors, 5 Home Secretaries, 6 Health Secretaries. How do we know...
How many Education Secretaries?
How
12?
do we know that if you won the general election, you'd still be Prime Minister in a year's time?
Yeah.
Biggest laugh of the night, biggest laugh of the night.
Good question.
Biggest laugh of the night.
What is the point of you?
Look,
What is the point of you?
People's frustrations. Of course, we haven't got everything right. I don't think any government does, and I know it's been very difficult for many people.
Yeah, but some governments get
But
some
what I
things
can
right,
do
Rishi.
It's
not his fault. He had to watch The
as hard as I
Simpsons on
can
Channel 4.
to deliver the stability that I
Cheers,
said I
Jamie.
would, and I've had this job for 18 months, and I think particularly on the economy, as I'm sure we'll get into, people can see that inflation is back to normal, the economy's growing, wages are rising, and that's why we're having this election.
Still 20% higher than they were in 2021.
And yes, I've got a track record over the past 18 months, which I'm sure we'll talk
Flatlined in
about.
17
But
years.
also, I want to build on that and continue the progress
Alan
we've made,
Partridge
whether it's
in a
patching
pantry.
people's taxes, bringing down
And I'd like to
migration,
come on to that, Prime
or
Minister.
indeed protecting people's pensions. These
He's
are all
gonna
things
cut
that now we're in a
taxes.
position
Yes.
to make more progress.
That's on
I'd
my
like to
bingo
come on
card.
to that, but many people do view Liz Truss's brief period in office as the symbol of that Tory chaos. Has
When
her
she was
legacy
beaten by a lettuce.
cast a long shadow for you?
Well, I think if people are thinking about that, they can think about what I did. I spent, and you and I spent some time that summer. You interviewed me. I did an event like this at the time because I disagreed with her economic policies. And actually, it wasn't easy for people to hear what I had to say, but I believed very deeply then in what I was saying. And I went around the country then talking about it, doing events like this. We did one similarly together as well, and you interviewed me. And that's who I am as a person, even though that wasn't an easy thing, even though back then, actually, it was difficult for me and I was behind.
Let us time.
I was talking about what I believe was right for our country, and that's who I am as a person. And I was right about that, and that's why people can trust me now when it comes to what I say about the economy today.
Please forgive me.
Let's get on to your pledges.
Let me go. No problem, mate.
In January 2023, you made the British people 5 promises. You said, no tricks, no ambiguity. We're either delivering for you or we're not. So I ask you to judge us on the effort we put in and the results we achieved. 5 promises. Let's talk about the promises. Promises 1 and 2, halving inflation, growing the economy. You've done that.
Well, the most important priority was the first one, because when I got this job, inflation was at 11%. And I think everyone knows the last few years have been difficult, the impact that was having on all your bills.
Because of your party.
You were seeing the impact in
that's why we're up to 11%.
And that's why my priority was to bring down inflation. So to ease that burden.
I'm just a regular guy.
It wasn't a given. And it was 11%. Now it's back to normal, ahead of our competitors, which is the result of a lot of hard work.
So let's just go through the pledges, because...
Yes, inflation is, of course, I know things are not.
Bills are still the same.
Are not easy.
Yeah, inflation's still going up.
Of course I know that.
It's attempting to engage with the public this way as well.
But what I was absolutely set about doing was making things that little bit easier.
Well, look, let's
and that's why inflation is a priority. And it was precisely because the bills...
Don't talk to the plebs, you flappy lemon.
Inflation down, and I'm pleased that we're able to do that.
Halving inflation, economy growing, tick, tick. Promise number 3, reducing national debt. It's gone up since you made the pledge, hasn't it? It has.
Yes, but it was always meant to come down over time, and that was always the time.
Another laugh, another big laugh.
What was it when you made the pledge?
But we measure our debt according to an independent body measures our debt.
But it's higher now than it was when you made the pledge, right?
Independent body of Tory advisors.
Yes, it was always forecast to be high. Let me be clear, Beth. I was never saying it would come down overnight.
Let me be clear.
At the time.
You made the pledge in January 2023.
It does, absolutely.
When I made the
and
pledge,
you're going into an election. I'm just making the point that you failed on that pledge as you go to the polls.
No, because when I made the pledge, I was very clear that we measured our debt reduction
very clear.
according to an independent body.
No tricks, no ambiguity.
No tricks, no ambiguity. None at all, right? We have an independent...
Hang on.
Who are they clapping
I'm
there?
happy. I'm happy to explain. So we measure our debt reduction independently. It's actually not me that does it. It's an independent body called the OBR. We set out the fiscal rules to bring debt down over 5 years, and that's how they measure it. And
Thank you,
they
Phil
have confirmed
Spicy.
to every budget, and you can go and look at it
Phil
online,
Spicer.
that we are
Emphasis
meeting those fiscal
inflating.
rules. And when I made the announcement, I think you were there at the press conference when I did, I actually was asked the question, and I explained then, they said, how are you measuring this? And I said, we're measuring it according to the independent body which will adjudicate our rules. And we've met all those rules, because that's really important to me.
Let's crack on.
But no, just
Cutting
before
NHS waiting list, that's pledge 4. When you made the promise, the list was at 7.21 million. It's now at 7.54 million cases. It's gone up.
Yes, it has. Yes, I'm very good. We've not made as much progress on cutting.
You've not made
waiting
any
lists as I would have
progress.
liked. And
You've made reverse progress.
That was something that I was
coming
keen to do,
down.
and it has proved more difficult, and it's been
when it
proved
was
more
higher.
difficult for a number of reasons. Obviously, recovering from the pandemic is not easy, but we
Oh, it's
are
all
now
the
making
pandemic's
progress.
fault.
And actually, the number that you gave
Sorry, making
is
progress.
just
War
over
of aggression in
200,000
Ukraine.
lower than it was a few months ago, because now...
A few months ago, but it's still gone up.
Yes, it has. I'm being very clear about that, but now it's coming down.
Okay.
Because we are now the
I've
person
been
where-
absolutely clear.
And they're going up. OK, let's go to the 5th pledge.
Well, I think you had a question earlier from, I think there was a junior doctor here, and I think everyone knows the impact the industrial action has had. That's why we haven't made as much...
it's the doctor's fault.
We just blamed the strikes. He's blamed it on the strikes. Never a good look.
The time for...
again.
But let's not dwell on this, but PM, the point is that when you made the pledge, there were several NHS industrial disputes happening at the time. Ambulance workers were on strikes, nurses had announced strikes, junior doctors were balloting, and you
Consultants were on
still made the
strike.
pledge. And
Barristers
the
were on
numbers
strike.
are up. Let's move on.
But having resolved all of the industrial action except the junior doctors, what you're now seeing is that the numbers are coming down. And we are making progress.
Junior doctors.
I might have not done brilliantly at maths at school, but I know that 7.2, 1 million, 7.5, it's going up.
Yes.
He's getting more heckles and more laughter.
Yeah.
Good. Maybe it'll get worse.
Your 5th
Big
promise
liar.
was stopping the small boats. Boat crossings are going up, aren't they?
Yes, they were down last year by a
Everyone's
third. They're
laughing.
down over the
Send
last
more
12
popcorn.
months by a little less than that. This year, there's what we've seen is one particular country, Vietnam, accounting for the majority of the increase.
They've still gone up.
Actually, the
They've
plans
still
that
gone
we
up.
put in place last year show that it is possible to make a difference
but
to
what
this
he's saying
problem,
is it's
which, by the
Vietnam's
way,
fault.
before I
Yeah,
got this job,
but
everybody said was impossible. Everybody said it was impossible to get the numbers down at all, but we showed last
Yeah.
year that that
Yeah.
was possible.
No,
And now we have a
this has
clear
gone up.
plan to put it
He's gonna say Rwanda.
and that means...
And I will come on to Rwanda,
Okay,
but look, crossings have risen by 40% this year against last year to 11,247 people crossing on small boats this year. It's going to be a record year. You have failed to deliver on this pledge. Please acknowledge it.
No, if you look at the sum total of the time that I've been Prime Minister, because you've picked one particular
Oh, it
period.
looks like he's gonna
if you look at
cry.
the sum total of the time that I've been Prime Minister, the numbers are down.
The numbers were down on last year. The numbers in
Were down
2023
considerably.
were down on 2022.
It's because of the work that we've done.
Have a it's a record year this year. They've gone up by 40%.
But if you look at
in the first
because
6 months of
these
this
things
year
are
is-
cyclical, because what you've seen is one new country,
These things are
Vietnam,
cyclical.
accounting
So
for a lot
what?
of the
It's
new
going to go up
arrivals.
again.
All right,
Just as we dealt with Albania.
No matter what you
I
do.
can give you...
OK, let's go back to basis. You said you were stopping small boats. Boat crossings are going up this year. Let's talk about Rwanda. You acknowledge that, don't you? OK, let's move on. You will get the flights off
crossings
the
up.
ground in July. You promised that.
Yes.
God,
Flights
this is
off
funny.
the ground, no if, no buts. How many flights and how many people are you going to send over the summer?
Well, what we've done is already started
clear.
detaining
Be very
people.
clear.
Airfields on standby, planes are booked. The date for the first flight is out on the 24th, I think it is, of July. We haven't given more details beyond that to not compromise the operational security, but there will be a regular rhythm of flights, not just one.
No, there
And
won't.
the important point here
You're not
is
gonna win.
this
You're not
is
gonna
about
get it
establishing
tested.
a deterrent.
Okay,
Because
you're
I
gonna win.
believe that if people come here illegally, they shouldn't be able to stay. We need to have somewhere safe to remove them, and that's how we will stop the boats. And that's what Rwanda is about.
Who the hell's applauding that?
There's like 3 people in the audience.
Can I just ask you one thing? If you were
Your
so
fella there was
confident
looking round.
about getting
He's
these flights off
Joe
in
Lafferty's getting
July,
second-hand
that
embarrassment.
this was the apex, really, of stopping the boats, why did you call an election before voters could actually see it was happening?
Exactly.
Because
Because you know it's not going to work.
Because an election is an important moment for our country, and my priority when I got this job was to restore economic stability. And we talked about bringing inflation down and getting the economy growing, and then being in a position, as we are now, to cut people's taxes. And for me, with that economic foundation established, it was the right moment to have an election to then discuss the future of our country. And this election is about the future. And you're right, on migration, there is a choice at this election, and elections have consequences. I've got a plan about what I want to do.
And I'm going to come on to that.
Keir Starmer doesn't agree with that plan.
I have a plan.
And can't tell you what he would do with illegal migrants. And that's a choice for everyone here and everyone watching. If you want to stop the boats, there's a choice of how you think that needs to be dealt with, and I'm the one that's got an answer for you.
I would like to talk to you about a bigger issue that people are concerned about, which is legal migration. For many years, people were frustrated that immigration kept going up. It was the number one reason for voters in the run-up to the EU referendum, one of the main reasons for Brexit. That's right, isn't
she said it. She said the B word.
Is too high.
Don't mention the Brexit.
One of the reasons people voted for Brexit was to take back control of our borders, right?
She mentioned it again.
Yes. Welcome to the Brexit.
Yes.
I said it once, but I think I got away with it.
Let's just go and look at the record. Because what was the total net migration figure into the UK in the past 3 years?
You'll have it there, so...
But the audience, do you want me to tell them? Because they won't know.
I don't have the number off the top of my head for the past 3 years.
It's 1.9 million people in the last 3 years. What was the total net migration figure in the last 3 years running up to the 2016 referendum when we had freedom of movement? Do you know it?
I don't have it offhand.
It was 836,000 people.
There we go.
And I'm sure many people in this room would have voted for Brexit. 70% of people in Grimsby voted for Brexit.
Dickheads.
How do you think they feel about that when they hear that net migration into this country has more than doubled in the last 3 years from before we left the European Union?
Yeah, I'm sure it's too high. I've been very clear that it's too high.
But this is you're letting them in.
Angry about it.
You were the original Brexiteer.
He's been absolutely clear.
Well, you were...
If only he could do something about it. He was only the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe that was the right decision for our country.
Frustrated, cynical,
absolutely.
betrayed?
I just said I'm sure people feel frustrated about that. And again, the numbers are too high. Of course they're too high. What I can tell you is what I've done since I've had this job.
They're that high because they have to be to keep the economy from going
and the numbers are too high. I'm not making any bones about that. The numbers are too high, Beth.
But yet you demonise
But what I can tell you is what I've done in the time I've had this job is already start to bring them down because we've taken action to change things. So last year the numbers were down by 10% already, and this year the number of visas that we've issued is down by around a quarter. And the forecasts show that we're on track to halve net migration in just over a year's time. So that shows and hopefully gives people some confidence we're now heading in the right direction. To give you an example of some of the things we've done, we've clamped down on abuse of the social care visa.
Get him a fridge!
Just quoting the facts.
That students
Get him a fridge!
And also raise the salary so that you have to earn £38,500 to come here on a work visa.
Okay.
Now, these measures are now starting to have an impact. You've seen that this year, as I said, numbers down by a quarter.
Go on, Beth, let the audience loose on him now.
Fall by a halve overall for net migration.
So are you making that pledge now? What's your promise to drive net migration down?
Yeah, well, what we've said we'll do is have actually a migration cap that's voted on in Parliament, so all your members of Parliament will vote every year on the number of migrants that will come. Well, that's, I said, the forecast at the moment is the numbers to halve, and then what we want to do is continue reducing it every year thereafter. But the key thing is here is there will be, for the first time, a legal cap on all migration so that we can guarantee that the numbers do continue to come down.
David Cameron,
what are you going to do about all the vacancies?
2010, tens of thousands, reduced net migration. May 2017, Theresa May reduced net migration to tens of thousands. Boris Johnson, 2019, committed to making sure overall numbers come down below the then net migration figure of just over 250,000 people.
Stop it, he's had enough. Actually,
Why
just keep going.
should anyone believe anything that you say on immigration?
Why should anyone believe a word you have to say and everything that comes out your mouth is a filthy
I can
lie.
completely understand people's cynicism about this, but what you can add to the end of that list, since I've been in charge, numbers down 10% and visas issued this year down by a quarter.
Okay.
Right, so that's I've had this job for 18 months.
Okay.
Numbers were down last year. They're down considerably at the start of this year, and they will keep coming down because of the measures that I've already announced.
My name is Nobody makes a really good point there in the chat.
But
the
it's,
birth rate is so low.
That's the record.
We need people to come
Let's
over.
go on to tax.
One angry pagans.
You
We
say
don't have an
that you will
immigration
cut
problem.
taxes. I
We
was
have
at
a
your
housing and
manifesto
infrastructure
launch
problem.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Our economics editor, Ed Conway, calculates that the tax burden on the country will be higher than it is now under a future Conservative government, even taking into account your proposed tax cuts. That's right, isn't it?
No, I haven't seen that analysis, and I'm not sure that is right.
He hasn't seen it because he can't watch Sky News. That's why he's not seen it. Ed Conway's
I haven't seen his analysis, so I can't comment on it because I haven't seen it. But what I can tell you is what our manifesto announced is, tax cuts for people at every stage of their life, for people in work, for people who are setting up small businesses and self-employed, for those young people who want to buy their first home, for pensioners, and for families. So tax cuts for people at every stage of their lives, because I believe people should keep more of their hard-earned money. That's how you build financial security. And again, that's a choice for people at this election. I believe in cutting people's taxes. Now that we're in a position to do so, having restored economic stability.
Can I just have a moment of honesty about this, though? Because today, taxes as a proportion of national income are at 36.5%. They will be at 36.7% of national income by the end of the coming Parliament with all your changes. So I know that you have introduced tax cut, but overall, taxes will still be going up, won't they, under a Conservative government?
Well, the tax burden is too high, and that is a reflection of the decision.
Is it going up in the next Parliament? It will go up.
Taxes for people will continue to come down. That's the manifesto that we've announced.
What?
I haven't seen Ed's analysis. It's very hard for me to comment on it there. But what I can tell you is that the tax cuts that we've announced reduce the tax burden by about 1 percentage point of GDP a year compared to the spring budget last year. So again, I haven't seen his numbers. I can tell you my numbers.
His analysis is based on figures that he is privy to.
You're saying
that's a ridiculous
taxes as a
excuse.
proportion of national income will come down at the end of the next Parliament under a Conservative government.
The tax cuts that we announced.
Don't look at this, Prime Minister. Don't look at it. Don't look at
it. But I don't have a forecast for the economy in 5 years' time. But what I can tell you is stamp duty for first-time buyers, abolished. National insurance for self-employed, abolished. Further cuts for national insurance. Triple lock plus, cut taxes for pensioners. No, but these are the practical tax cuts that will be delivered, and they'll impact everyone in a slightly different way. But the choice at this election is clear, because I want to keep cutting people's taxes.
Why was Sunak the worst Prime Minister ever?
I can have a second.
He is Boris Johnson,
but that's
with a
because
slightly better haircut.
I had to take decisions that were difficult as Chancellor after providing the support that we did during the pandemic for the NHS.
Not to people in care homes. 18,000 people died.
And the reasonable thing to do, the right thing to do for the country is to make sure that we secure our future and pay that back. And that requires difficult decisions.
Isn't the truth that your problem is broken promises, and it's deeper than the last couple of years? It's Brexit too. It's migration.
Brexit. Don't mention the Brexit!
The NHS was meant to get better. We were all remember 350 million quid on the side of a bus, don't we? It's levelling up. It's a catalogue of broken promises. You must surely see why so many voters think it's time for you and the Conservatives to get your P45.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Big round of applause.
Piss off.
That's it.
Piss off. Don't find someone else's country to ruin.
I can understand people's frustrations. It's been a very difficult few years.
Actually, don't do that.
We've been through two once-in-a-century shocks, which have had an enormous impact on everyone.
Smile's gone
on public services, on people's standard of living. Of course it has.
He's got the
when
audience
energy bills double,
come.
when inflation goes up to 11%, when a pandemic shuts down our economy, with all the impact on everyone's livelihoods.
Welcome to the Brexit.
That's taken its toll. But this election now is about the future, and I do believe that we've turned a corner. And when I appreciate that people want to see positive change. And my only point would be that you don't get any change unless you've got a plan and you're prepared to do bold things. And that's what our manifesto is about.
He did say we have a plan.
We'll come to you in a moment. I've got running out of time. Now, I just want to ask you one more thing. You were once popular. You were Dishy Rishi.
Oh, yeah. Now it's Rishi without a Dishy.
Can you tell our audience something about you that might make them like you a bit more again?
No.
Well...
No.
Actually, funnily enough, people seem to think I have a very kind of healthy lifestyle and I go to the gym and this is an obsession about my fasting. But I actually have an appalling diet because I eat an enormous amount of sugar and I'm very unhealthy
remember
in that
him being a
regard, which
coke
I was talking to someone
addict.
today about. They were
the best
completely
coke from
shocked. That's not really something that someone used to like me more or less, but that's something I was talking to someone today and they're genuinely surprised about the amount of Haribos, Twixes and everything else that I get through, particularly during a campaign. So contrary to popular belief, I don't have that healthier lifestyle or diet.
So the thing that we have to like about him is he's on his way to getting type 2 diabetes.
Thank you very much.
I quite like that about him.
Yeah, I quite like that about him as well.
Yeah. I'm happy with that.
We're clapping for the diabetes.
That's good. That's a nice thing complete to say about
We've
himself.
just heard there what the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had to say to our political editor Beth Rigby.
I probably wouldn't have said that I eat really badly.
He said he was deeply sad to have caused her.
Just talk about the kind of things you like: films, music, literature, sports, anything. What was the last film you saw and enjoyed?
Also admitting tonight he hasn't made as much progress in cutting NHS waiting lists as he would have liked, suggesting strike action was to blame. And Mr Sunak conceded immigration to the UK is too high. And he understands why people are frustrated and angry. Well, now it's our audience turn to put the Prime Minister under the spotlight. And just to remind you, we're joined tonight by voters from across the political spectrum, independently chosen from here in Grimsby and right around the UK. Beth, it's over to you.
Oh, OK.
Thank you, SJ. Well, our first question from the audience comes from Ian. He's a retired teacher from Grimsby. There he is.
Good evening.
Hi, Ian.
Following Liz Truss's disastrous mini-budget with its unfunded tax cuts, mortgages have become much less affordable, particularly for young people, such as my daughter. Why has your government spoilt their hopes and dreams? And how do we know you won't do it again?
Well, Ian, how old's...
Take that. Pow! Right in the kisser.
How old's your daughter?
She's 19.
And did you say she has a mortgage or she's looking to buy a home?
She was kind of hoping to buy a home until you put the mortgage rates up and you failed to meet your housing targets, and she's struggling to find a property that she can afford.
Yeah. Well, look, I want everyone to own their own home. It's a really magical thing when you can, whether your daughter and everyone else. And the best way for us to do that is to get interest rates down again in the first instance, and that's why I made a priority to bring inflation down, because that's how we will enable the Bank of England to then start cutting interest rates. And as you can see, inflation is down from 11% back to normal. So hopefully we're on the right path then, and you will see that reflected in mortgage rates. But actually in our manifesto, there were a couple of things that will help your daughter.
Yeah, they're going to put all young people in barracks.
Hopefully she's
that's going to solve the problem.
One of them was stamp
National
duty.
Service.
So what I will do if we're re-elected is to abolish stamp duty for first-time buyers, like your daughter, buying homes up to £425,000.
It's already been abolished.
I thought it was.
To be honest, Mr Sunak,
or was
I
it
don't
temporary?
think she was thinking
I think it was a
of buying a house
temporary
that expensive.
suspension.
Yeah, 420,000 just said.
For everyone, up to that amount. So that's a tax cut that's worth thousands of pounds of deposit that she otherwise wouldn't need to save for. And alongside that, we will also reintroduce a new version of Help to Buy, which allows her to buy a home with just a 5% deposit, because when I talk to people like your daughter, what they say to me is, actually, I will be able to probably just about afford the mortgage, but what's tricky is the time it takes to save up for a deposit. And we saw with the previous version of Help to Buy that it makes a big difference, because it saves a young couple or a young person
to have children
years in having to save up for that deposit, because the Help to Buy loan steps in to plug the gap and saves people an enormous amount of money. So Help to Buy, together with a stamp duty abolition for first-time buyers, essentially, will help young people like your daughter, because I believe in a society where everyone can own their home, and if we're elected, we can cut taxes and build a home, so that's possible.
Anna Wildsville,
Our next
tax
question is
the
from
rich.
Hamza, who works in the NHS. He's from Hersham.
Thank you very much for the super
There you
chat.
go.
Good evening, Prime Minister. As a proud member of staff in the NHS and a patient, I've seen firsthand the chronic effects of underfunding and staff shortages, especially post-Brexit. Recruitment and retention is very difficult, and staff are continuously burnt out with waiting lists seeming to never end. And I've personally experienced being left on a stretcher for 8 hours in my local A&E department while in pain, just in the corridor. Going forward, how can you convince me that you'll restore our NHS to an institution that we can be proud of?
Yeah.
come your head so much
thanks,
bigger
Hamza,
than
first of
mine?
all, for what you do and all your colleagues do in our
my head isn't
incredible
bigger than
NHS.
yours.
And I'm very
I'm
sorry to
leaning
hear about
forward.
your experience. I think the first thing to say to you is I come from an NHS family. So, like you, like my parents, they worked in the NHS. And my dad was a GP, my mum was a pharmacist. And
my father
they
was a
dedicated their
toolmaker.
lives to helping people. And
Your
I was
dad was a
surrounded by
GP.
that
Yeah,
growing
helping
up.
you.
And actually
Helping
what
you
they
go to Winchester,
instilled in me
Prime Minister.
was an importance of how we
You're
can
worth
continue to
over
help people. And I
£500
worked
million.
for my mum doing exactly that. So that's the first thing you need to know about me when it comes to the NHS. And that's why we've put record funding into it. But your point is the right
Your
one.
parents fleeced
What
the
we have not
NHS to
done
such an
for
extent
not
that you
just
could go
years,
to
but for
Winchester.
decades, is train enough staff.
Right.
And then be reliant on having to bring people here
Why
from
fleece the
abroad.
NHS for that
and in the
much as well?
NHS's 75-year history, it has never, ever had a long-term workforce plan.
Christopher Bowles,
But for the
who can
first
save
time, it
20
does,
grand for deposit
because I
plus the
thought that was the
legal
right
fees.
thing to
Exactly.
prioritise.
There we go.
And we announced
You like
it
saying
because
the
the
right
NHS's
thing, doesn't
plan
he?
that the government has fully backed. And I said to them, look, this is the right thing to do. Because
right
we need
thing.
to train more
We need a right
doctors,
thing.
nurses, dentists,
Bingo card.
physiotherapists, everything today, so that in years to come, the NHS will have the staff that it needs to ease some of the pressures, reduce reliance on staff from overseas, and make sure it's a fantastic career for everybody. And look, candidly, we're the best one in the world. You know, I won't be here in the 14 years that it takes to train a consultant that we're paying for today. But I thought it was the right thing to do to strengthen our NHS for the long term.
here?
Because people
What does
like
he mean by
you
that?
are brilliant. We want to make sure we train
He either means
many
California
people
or
to
death.
ease the burden of
Either
everyone
suits
that
me.
can.
Here in the next 14 years, because I'm pissing off
14
on
years.
California, mate.
Post-Brexit, when we lost the huge
mention the
majority of the staff
Brexit!
that we had in our
Did you not get
NHS,
the memo?
there
No,
wasn't
they
a
didn't.
plan to fill those gaps and led to chronic shortages. Then we had the COVID pandemic, which this country was not prepared for, and I worked through and saw the amount of
exploited
people
to
that were
benefit your mates.
affected,
Yeah.
burnt
VIP
out.
line.
I had a close family member
Michelle
who
Moan's
was
yacht.
going through the COVID pandemic and now is living with long COVID and had to wait weeks to even get on a ventilator. And then the economy, under your leadership as Chancellor and under Boris Johnson, who you supported, we tried to get back as soon as possible, not thinking that this was still an ongoing pandemic. Boris was too late bringing in the lockdown rules.
Yes.
You were really quick to open up lockdown again, which led to another spike in COVID cases.
Can we talk about
this
Eat
is
Out to
what has
Help
led
Out?
to continuous
Eat out to help the virus out.
you
Is
know,
that a big? It's a bingo card.
this is what has led to this
hope it's all
long term of trying to rebuild
Well,
the
this
NHS.
guy is getting
Now,
lots
you
of
say that
Rishi's
you're coming from an
resume in there
NHS
as
background
well.
and you have this
That's good.
instilled value
Yeah, keep going,
of
keep talking.
caring for the NHS. How are we going to do that if you try and undermine it at every level?
But with greatest respect, that's not what we're doing. We're investing
yes.
record sums into it. We're training more doctors and nurses than we ever have, and there are more doctors and nurses in the NHS today than it's also had. But we also need to do things differently. And it's whether it's things, and you'll know this from, and what's your particular specialty?
So I'm a physiologist in cardiology.
And you're a cardiology, right? So you'll know that we're doing things like elective surgical hubs, virtual wards, community diagnostic centres, of which there's one right here in Grimsby. And those are all new innovations that you and your colleagues have pioneered, that we have supported, that will actually mean that people can get the care they need quicker and secure the NHS for the long term.
We're going to take from the hospitals to the hubs to staff them,
Record,
because there's shortages of the staff already. We're short of radiographers, all the trades, all the different specialities throughout the hospitals. We're short of staff. So building another building that's going to move it from the hospital is not going to cure the problem. It's just going to make it worse.
Get in, Susan Boyle.
Dr. Death. Yeah, David Cooper.
Just to answer that. So, man, we are recruiting and training more doctors, nurses than we ever have in our history, and there are more today. And I know we need more, and that's why we've made those investments. But
I'm going to wrap this.
But I will just pick
I've got so many questions.
But I think that's very important. Where I just very respectfully disagree with you, actually based on the clinical advice that we have from all our leading medics, is that we can improve care for people by doing things outside of hospital. And the Community Diagnostic Centre, one of which is here, is a great example of that, where you can get your checks and tests and scans quicker. Another example of that is pharmacies. Right? Because I think that you should be able to go and see your pharmacist to get treatment rather than your GP for common ailments. That's a change that we've brought in that already millions of people are benefiting from. And again, it's just an example of doing things differently to get people the care that they need.
Look at all these questions.
Looking through questions.
Christina from London, please.
Hi. There are people who grow up in communities like mine that are concerned about policing.
Statistics show that systemic racism, sexism and misogyny are still prevalent in UK policing. Do you accept that these issues are in fact systemic? And what are your plans to improve relations and build trust between the police and our communities?
I don't feel sorry for him, Dave. Do not feel sorry for him. He doesn't deserve it. He's worth £700 million.
Well, misogyny, racism, discrimination has absolutely no place in our society, but particularly when it comes to the police, because they're people that we look to protect us and trust, and all the things that we've seen and read about over the past year or two have been really appalling and shocked us to our core, because we thought, hang on, the people that we put our trust in, they're a small minority, and we shouldn't tar the entire police force with the actions of a small minority, but a small minority of people who were behaving in a way that was completely reprehensible.
So you don't accept
and it's right that those people are held to account. Now, the Met in particular, there are issues, and actually we instituted a report which was done, which now the new Met Police Commissioner is working through to improve relations and make sure the Met is focused on policing in the right way. But I also want to make sure that our communities are safe. Safe for you, safe for everyone else, safe for my 2 girls to walk around in, which is why we're putting more police officers on the street, giving them the appropriate powers they need, and toughening up sentencing, particularly for the most violent crimes, and focusing especially on violence against women and girls. So that's what we're doing on policing.
Significantly.
Police numbers today are at a record high, and if we're elected, then we'll put 8,000 more police officers on the street, warranted officers, which one extra one for every neighbourhood, because I think to that lady's point, that neighbourhood policing is really important, and having police officers who know their communities well, and I was out with some not that long ago, where they can build those relations is really
important. What's also important is accepting that it is a systemic issue. First you accept that, and then you can plan to change the things so that these things don't happen again. It's not just bad apples if it happens over and over again. Does that make sense?
And in the Met in particular, as I said, there are a range of issues. We instituted a report to look into them, and the new Met Police Commissioner is there and is reforming the Met so that it can actually learn from the mistakes of the past and let's make sure that these things don't happen again.
Right, thank you. Our next question comes from Amy from Leeds. There she is, please, Amy.
Hi, Prime Minister.
Hi.
My name's Amy. I'm a former Conservative Party chair and a lifelong True Blue. But in this election, I find myself an undecided voter. Actions taken by this government actually make me feel ashamed. You left David Cameron at the D-Day celebrations to represent our country. To me, this feels like a deliberate action, as you know that your ratings in the polls are so low. How do you plan to rebuild the public's trust in you, or is it already irreparable?
Well, Amy, thank you.
Irreparable.
Why are you still floating, Amy?
Thank you for all your previous volunteering and service to the party. And when it comes to D-Day, as I said, I absolutely did not mean to cause any offence or hurt. That was not my intention. I made a mistake, and I unreservedly apologise for it, and all I can do is ask for people's forgiveness. And when it comes to trust in my commitment to our veterans community and the pride that I have in what they've done for our country, what I would say to people is you can look at the things that we've done. There is a veterans minister sitting around the cabinet table for the first time with more funding than we've ever had, focused on supporting veterans with their mental health, physical health, employment opportunities, housing, because it's something I care deeply about. But more generally at this election, as you said, you're undecided. This election is about the future and the future that you want for our country.
Certainly the 5 that they've got an extra donations from Frank
I believe that the manifesto that we put out yesterday contains a very clear plan, a bold set of actions that will deliver a more secure future for you and everybody. And that starts with cutting everyone's taxes, because I believe people should keep more of their hard-earned money. It means bringing migration down. It means a more sensible approach to net zero that prioritises our energy security and your family bills. And it means protecting pensioners, because I think if you've worked hard all your life, you deserve dignity in retirement. So those are some of the things I talked about yesterday. That's a choice at this election. It's an important moment for our country, but given the opportunity, I can deliver a secure future for you and everyone else.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would usually agree. I just think that, and I'll be very honest here, that picture of the Queen, our late Queen, who was left to bury her husband on her own, during COVID, following guidance that we all followed, and knowing what was happening in Downing Street, and you were part of that, and you had a fixed penalty notice, and you've apologised, and I understand all of that. That's where the trust broke down, and I just think we have long memories in this country as a public, and you really will have to go some. And I appreciate the apology tonight, thank you very much, but that you have to realise that there is a long way to go to really rebuild that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, and 3 weeks ain't long enough.
Yeah, it's nowhere near long enough.
Every 3 decades. 3 decades in the wilderness.
Those rules were difficult for everyone to follow, and the government should absolutely have gone above and beyond in following them. And I deeply regret what happened. I apologise for it at the time, and it was an extraordinarily difficult time for our country.
Tell you what, why didn't you stop being Prime Minister?
And I know that people will remember that. And all I can say is that trust takes time to rebuild through actions.
California beckons, Rishi.
What we did during COVID to support the NHS, roll out the vaccine, support people's jobs. What we've done, what I've done over the past 18 months to deliver on restoring economic stability and start making progress on bringing migration down. That's how you earn trust, through your actions, making progress on the things that matter to people. And that's what I plan to talk to people about through the rest of this campaign. And yesterday's manifesto sets out a direction of travel for the future.
Should Amy and other Conservatives vote for reform?
No. Very simply, no. And the reason for that, and I'm glad you asked the question, right? The reason for that is a vote for reform ultimately is a vote to put Kier Starmer into number 10. So if you're someone who cares about cutting taxes...
let's do that! Let's do that!
If you're someone who cares about cutting taxes, protecting pensions, a sensible approach to net zero that prioritises security in your bills, or indeed bringing migration down, both illegal migration and stopping the boats, I'm the person that is going to deliver that for you, not Kier Starmer. Kier Starmer doesn't have a plan to tackle illegal migration. Kier Starmer is not going to cut your taxes. Kier Starmer is going to reverse all the reforms I made to getting us to net zero in a way that saves you money, and that's going to put up everyone's bills. So that's the choice, right? Kier Starmer is certainly not matching the Triple Lock Plus, which is going to protect pensioners, and instead there's going to be a retirement tax for every pensioner.
Okay, we've
Performative
for you or for everyone else thinking about it, on the issues that you care about, who is more likely to deliver for you. And a vote for anyone who's not a Conservative is just a vote to put Kier Starmer in number 10.
PM, I've got another question. It's from William. Where is he? He's a student from Grimsby. There he is.
Hi there. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Away.
Given the recent policy announcements regarding national service for younger people, and you alluded to the quadruple lock on state pensions, as well as your record and the Conservatives' record in government, why would a young person today believe the Conservative Party has their best interests at heart?
Why do you hate young people?
Yeah, he was asked that on the campaign trail a week ago. That was great.
So, William, actually on national service, I have 2 young girls. I'm incredibly excited for them
they'll be
to
doing
do it,
it,
because
will
I think
they?
it'll be transformative for our country. I really do, because it'll provide skills and opportunities for young people that will set them up for the rest of their lives, foster a culture of service in our society, bring people closer together and contribute to our long-term resilience and security. And actually everywhere I've been, people have been really positively talking to me about it, and actually parents more than anyone else excited about what it will do for their kids. But more broadly, so that's just one thing, right? A couple of days after that, we announced another big policy where I want to provide opportunities for young people, you and everyone else, which is why we're going to curb the investment into rip-off degrees, which let young people down, and take that money and use it to fund 100,000 high-quality apprenticeships, which actually can provide an enormous opportunity for people. And the answer to the question, I think Ian's first question, wasn't it? Ian, there you are, Ian's daughter, with buying a house. Because when I talk to young people, that's the thing, they want a great job, they want to be able to buy their own home. And what we announced yesterday in the manifesto, a couple of days ago, is going to make a big difference, because it's going to mean that it's much easier for young people to get on the housing ladder and buy their first home. So whether it's an amazing apprenticeship, whether it's national service, whether it's buying your own home, actually what you're seeing are bold ideas that will make a big difference and spread opportunity around.
Just say no. Are you going to criminalise them? Are you going to set a generation of young people up with criminal records for just saying no?
Of course not. Of course not.
Just say no.
Well, there's no point in it then, is there?
Of course that's not the thing. And actually what we said we would do is set up a Royal Commission, which we haven't had in this country for actually about 25 years, and they're set up independently to look at big things like this. And there are lots of models from across Europe that you can look at to make sure that we have an appropriate mix of incentives and sanctions, and that's how other countries do it. And actually, if you talk to other countries around Europe, and when you talk to them, actually the percentage of young people that recommend it and love it is extremely high, and they think it's an incredibly fulfilling apprenticeship.
I'd really like to get a final question. William, very quickly, but I've got 2 minutes.
The national service policy, it might be popular amongst parents, as you said. The quadruple lock on pensions might be popular amongst parents and older generations, but it's not popular amongst younger people. Why are you moving your party so far away from younger voters when it's the key demographic that will be our
Because they know
future?
they've lost that demographic already. They can't be bothered.
1% of young people are going to vote for the Tories.
Of course they're not pitching in.
OK, I'm going to go to the last question.
Can I answer the question?
Well, I can't get the... Yeah, go on.
Piss off.
William,
look, I think national service is transformational and positive for young people. I think cutting stamp duty and Help to Buy to get young people their first home is really positive for young people. I think creating more high-quality apprenticeships is really good for young people. And when young people getting into work, getting a tax cut so they can keep more of their hard-earned money is really positive for young people. And actually, I don't view society as an us versus them, because every young person also has a grandparent, and I think they want their grandparents to be looked after when they retire, and that's why I think it's right to do the triple lock plus 2.
No,
and I
don't
think
nod
you
your
agree
head,
with
Guy.
that as well.
He's like, oh, I have to look after the old people. He's not answering the question.
No.
Why don't you look after young people? Or look after the old people?
Yeah, but I think we can do both at the same time.
And that's the point, we are doing both. We're cutting taxes for young people buying their first home, creating new apprenticeships, and the triple lock plus to protect pensioners who have worked hard all their lives and are grandparents to those young people. We are doing those things. And as I said when I was sitting there, we can cut taxes for people at every stage of their life. That's the type of country I want to build.
OK. OK, I'm afraid we are
It's popular in Finland because they have Russia next door.
Prime Minister, thank you so much for joining us here in Grimsby tonight. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
What a tosser.
Well, you've heard tonight from the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the Labour leader Kier Starmer. Thank you to both men for being here.
Well, obviously we're not going to give him as high a score as Kier, but he wasn't as competent. He wasn't as good.
We really hope our programme this evening has helped you.
He hadn't done his homework, as an audience member pointed out.
And thank you to our live audience here in Grimsby as well. I'm going to be getting their views in just a few minutes' time. But first, Sophie Ridge will have all the political reaction to what we've witnessed this evening from the spin room. This has been the battle for number 10.
It's over. That battle's over.
Nil point, says Alan.
Not good. Not good.
Dun, 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 dun. There's no music for some reason. That's a bit weird. Right, there you go. Did you want accountability?
I'd love some accountability. Professionalism and integrity, but I don't think we got that from him, did we?
The ability to have an account. Anyway, nice to have you here in Politics Social HQ.
A pleasure. If I might just do a little plug for my little show.
You've not done this up here before,
No, I haven't.
you?
After you finished watching this with this good gentleman, go and take a look at the recent episode of 16 Million Rising SMR. Go to www.16millionrising.co.uk or search for 16 Million Rising, 3 separate words on Google, or say to your Alexa smart speaker, Alexa, play 16 Million Rising podcast. You'll get the recent episode of our show for free. 2.5 hours, including our top 10 Tory gaffes of just the last 7 days.
I was going to say,
and we're doing that every single week. There have been 30 so far,
hours.
plus the also-rans that weren't quite gaffy enough to make the top 10. So next week's going to be a good one as well. We've got some brand new music this week from Fix Beat. We play lots of Marsh Family stuff as well. We love those guys. And all the talking... Fix Beat, that's Peter Core from National Rejoin March. But we've all the analysis, the comprehensive digest of the last 7 days. So go and check it out. 100% free. 16 Million Rising, and we're on Twitter as well.
Wayne is saying put a link in. Here you go, mate.
Put a link in.
You have the keyboard.
How do you put a link in?
You go here, right? Just type it in there, and it'll come at the bottom there. Yeah. HTTPS.
No, I don't think you put an S. I don't think there's an S with this. If I put HTTP,
not secure, then is it?
Well, I don't know.
You don't need the www. Oh, it doesn't matter. You keep typing. Wayne Maker, you can ask as moderator. Wayne Maker is a toll maker. There you go. 60millionrising.co.uk. There you go. It will be.
Or
should have put an S in it.
Search for
your ma. Ben's ma. Ben's ma in the bath. Wayne gives Starmer 10, Sunak 0.
Oh no!
What have you done?
Press backspace or F11 or something.
You press F11.
There
Right, while Ben is typing away. Hi, Wayne. Just let me say thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. It's been a long one.
It has.
Ben came round to watch horror movies and
We're
have
going
some
to.
Chinese takeaway, but we've ended up spending 2 hours watching bloody Rishi Sunak flap his gums. Is that really small? Do you want me?
I can't. I've got poor eyesight.
Yeah. Do you want me to make it bigger for you? Hey, what about the text on the screen? There you go. I'll search for 16 Million Rising on Google. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Is it better than Mercury Rising, the film with
God,
Bruce
I haven't
Willis?
seen that. I haven't seen that.
What about Jupiter Ascending?
I haven't
Which
seen
is
that
about
either.
a girl called Jupiter Jones.
Last film I saw that was really,
think.
really great, I can recommend if you're a film lover, is Hitman, the Richard Linklater movie. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah?
Really, really good. And
Based
actually,
on the video game,
and if you want
Hitman.
something totally pure adrenaline, silly and funny, just go and watch the latest Baby Goose movie, Ryan Gosling, The Fall Guy.
What about
really good.
Furiosa, which we went
Furiosa
to
was
see
great
together
fun.
last week at the
Take earplugs though if you're going to go see it in an IMAX cinema because it's bloody loud. It is,
I did actually
seriously.
take earplugs.
You did take it.
I
We had to see it in
pulled out
IMAX
my
theatre.
earplugs, and you were just like, "What are they?" And I'm like, "I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
need
the whole
these."
spirit, I didn't.
I knew
because
it was
the
going to be dead loud.
experience of being in
I
an
knew it was going to be
IMAX,
dead loud.
You want to hear it loud. You want to hear it really, really loud.
Right. Well, anyway, so we're gonna have to spin out now. Thank you very much for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much to Ben Chambers.
And thank you very much, Graham.
Partner in crime. Put it there, my friend.
Thank you, Greg.
First person in our new studio.
Yeah. Politics social.
Politics
Politics
social.
social.
None of that Labour nonsense.
Oh God, no.
I had to change all the graphics. It's taking ages. Spending all day just sitting there. I've forgotten how many things. Just have Labour social
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Oh well, rebranding never went easy. Just ask Pepsi. Right. Fall Guy is good, says Vendetta.
No, Fall Guys is good fun.
What are
Really
you guys
good fun.
going to watch? What are we going to watch tonight? What horror movies?
We're going to watch. Well, if I say what the first one is, people will tell you the plot of it, and it's best if you don't know.
Okay.
But we are going to watch Hitman.
I want to watch that.
Hitman is excellent.
Demons on the TV in the midnight
Right,
show.
yeah, it's really good. It's called Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil. I want to watch that.
It went under the radar, but we'll see if we can.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Might be a late night, me and Ben.
It
The
might
production quality in the show for Phil's show in the morning might not be up to scratch. Very sorry about that.
Let's say goodnight then, shall we?
Yeah, okay. So we'll. Are you getting off?
I'm
You
getting
just
off.
want-
We're not
he's
off
just-
yet.
He's just walking up. I've got to do the outro, and I've got to thank everyone for the super
right.
chats and the chat, our socialites in the chat
okay,
here.
you start
Like
sucking all your
Christopher
dicks
and
in your suck,
Michael
and
and,
then we'll
and,
put the
and
outro
One
in.
Angry Pagan and James Pond. Starmer.
You're going
one
to
that
thank
is-
every single person that said
Yes,
something.
I'm going to thank. No, just out of 10, what would you give Starmer?
Oh, in all seriousness, I give him a strong 7, possibly even an 8.
Okay, and what would you give Sunak?
Are we allowed to go negative?
Yes.
Well, no, seriously. I mean,
1. I'll give him 1.
1 or 2. I mean, I knew what he was going to say. He repeated himself endlessly. He got laughed at repeatedly. He was heckled far more than Starmer was.
The only reason why I will give him 1 is because
Showing up at all, not crying.
Yes,
Not crying.
He didn't have a breakdown.
He didn't have a breakdown.
I thought at one point he was literally going to burst into tears and just go, "Oh, fuck off, the lot of you!" and then
Exactly.
like, run away.
Actually, if you've not seen the Paul Brand interview on ITV, it's not much more than the clips that have been sort of trailing all day, but it's worth watching. I mean, because he starts off with a huge faux pas, and then the question about did you know deprivation, did you struggle during your childhood, did you have to go without, is just. It's right up there with his top gaffes. It could well be our number 1 gaff on 16 Million Rising on next week's Monday show. But I don't know, because there's still several days left of this week to go, and it's just endless.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Inside Number 9, last episode of the 9th season, the final season of Inside Number 9 is I think it might be on now, actually.
A bit hit and miss for me, that. Some are really, really good. Some I just think...
Yeah, but I like that. I like that it's different. I like that it's a mix. I'm
don't mind a
sick
bit
of
of
like
mix,
the
but I
same food being shoveled down my throat.
No, I know, but
everywhere
I mean,
go.
I don't need a
Like
mix
bit
of some being
variety.
good episodes and some being a bit naff.
Yeah, but you get that with any anthology show. You get that with Black
maybe.
Mirror.
Not some-
Anyway,
not some-
it's the last show tonight, and my friend's sister's in it tonight because she was in an earlier show.
Wow.
She was in the Empty Orchestra show. So if you manage to watch it tonight, enjoy that. We might watch that. Maybe.
No.
Maybe. No.
We haven't got time. We want to watch some films.
Okay. We're gonna watch
Let's
some
go.
films.
Let's do it.
Sunak went without VH1.
Sorry?
He went without a VH1.
He went without VH1.
Yeah, on Sky.
I don't know. What's VH1?
It was like the MTV for old people.
Oh, God.
It just played Deep Blue something, Breakfast at Tiffany's, on a loop forever.
He didn't get to grow up with Cribs as well. Which is MTV Cribs.
All the Real World. All Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, no, all The Simpsons.
All The Simpsons.
He's never watched an episode
never
of The
seen
Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
Been catching up on a box set, binging.
Eating Haribo. Right, anyway, we've really got to go. So thank you very much. Phil will be back in the morning at 9:30 for Morning Brew. And then I think there's another debate tomorrow. And there's question time. There's Quaggle Box tomorrow.
It's
and
question time.
There's things going on. So there's got to be a leaders debate, talk, event. I'll try to be here for us. And we can watch it together.
Yeah. See you guys.
All right. Until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. Say goodbye, Ben.
Goodbye. Toodaloo. Are we clear?